Howdy folks, I'm Colonel Sanders and you're not. I wanted to talk about Uncle Harley's 11 herbs and spices real quick. Over the last 7 months since I posted my final video with my final theory on the recipe, there's been a lot of questions across all my platforms. And one of the main questions is, how did I come up with cardamom as me thinking that was the key ingredient to the 11 herbs and spices? Really, I did some research because Uncle Harley always told the family, by the family I mean my grandpa Charles, great-grandpa Charles Sanders, the Colonel's nephew. Charles said that the Colonel told him that there was one ingredient out of the 10. 10 of them were common. Everybody had them in their pantry. Everybody. They were just the most common ingredients that anybody could have, because he mixed together some seasonings for sausage and dressings, and he would combine parts of those, and that's how he came up with his 11 herbs and spices. So, one ingredient he always told Charles that it was rare and expensive for its time. Not now, and not after Kentucky Fried Chicken took off, but when he was developing it between 1930 and 1940 in Corbin, Kentucky, developing that seasoning, the 11th ingredient was rare and expensive. You couldn't get it in Corbin very easily. I believe that was cardamom. I did some research and there were 3 possible choices for spices in the world that were rare around 1930 and 1940. Pink peppercorn has been tossed around. Some of my followers and friends even think it could be pink peppercorn. It was very rare and expensive for its time. KFC 11 forum thinks that vanilla is in it. I tried that with the factual ingredients that we found on the packaging of 99X Kentucky Fried Chicken 1960 and Kentucky Fried Chicken 2020. Vanilla does not go good with it. It made me gag. So I don't believe vanilla is it either. Cardamom was another contender. It was, I believe, and I could be wrong on this, I'd have to pull up the research again, but I did a whole series on this on YouTube. Cardamom, I think, was the 3rd most expensive seasoning in the world during that time. And I don't know if it was very rare for Corbin, Kentucky to have, but if it was the 3rd most expensive and it was rare, then that would make sense. So what do I go by with that? That's all speculation now. We're not sure whether that is it or not. I had my grandfather, Charles's son, taste test things because he was around when Uncle Harley made the chicken. He remembers what the chicken tasted like. And unlike Joe Lettington, he's not a lying nephew. So I had him taste the 3. And cardamom, and I had him do it blind tested. He said cardamom, when he stuck his finger in there and tasted it, he goes, I remember that in Kentucky Fried Chicken. I could taste that in the original. So based off of the memory of my family that was actually involved there and don't lie, and what they remember it tasting like, and with my research, I determined that cardamom would be the 11th ingredient. After I got the recipe ingredients from the Kentucky Fried Chicken packaging and 99X between the 90s and now, because they have now changed the public ingredient list, I combined everything, came up with a few herbs and spices. See, 99X showed allspice on it. And if you want to see the evidence of all this stuff, I suggest you go through the playlist that I have this on YouTube, and I will show you all my resources, all my sources of where I got my information. 99X shows allspice on it. I used to believe it was the original recipe. After speaking with Cordell Reed, I learned that it's a variant of it, not exactly it. So you have to take that with a grain of salt, no pun intended. So allspice. Well, what can you do to replicate the flavor of allspice? You could take nutmeg, cinnamon, cloves. Nutmeg, cinnamon, and cloves can mimic the allspice flavor rather than just the plant allspice. So if I took allspice and the ingredients from Kentucky Fried Chicken and the remaining ingredients of 99X and I split allspice into 3 ingredients, which is cloves, nutmeg, and cinnamon, that gives me 11 in addition to cardamom. Now I could back cinnamon up with a video or a voice recording that's posted as a video on Mary and Kate Spice's website of Uncle Harley talking about 99X and saying that he knows that some good ingredients, ginger was one of them, and cinnamon was one of them. So based on that video, I take those to back up my claim of what I think it is. Why am I doing this? Because Joe Lettington's recipe is fake. The world believed him as the own nephew of the Colonel, revealing the family secret. I could tell you it's not a family secret. There's so many people that claim it on my page. I got in-laws, step-cousins that claim it on the page. I have real cousins that claim that they might have it on the page. They just haven't looked at it. So there's all kinds of speculations and wonder, and I wanted to just get the most accurate information with all the noise going around. I made videos talking about my cousins, Joe Ludington, other step cousins, Matt, Pat, Glenn and friends, and I just wanted the most accurate information. So for myself, I went out, found what I could find, saw what I could see, put them together, came up with 11 herbs and spices based off of research, not based off of theories, not based off of somebody else's things. I took a combination of things that were reliable sources, put them together, and came up with a pretty good recipe. If it's it, it's it. If it's not, it's not. I don't really care whether it's it or not, but it's the most accurate information, and it counteracts all this other crap that's out there. Something I want to also point out, they did change the recipe, but not in the way that you think they did. When Colonel Sanders was operating Kentucky Fried Chicken until he sold out in 1964, he mixed the spices. If he wasn't doing it, Cousin Lee was doing it. If Cousin Lee wasn't doing it, Claudia was doing it. Joe Ludington's aunt. And Claudia knew what it was. Lee knew what it was. Uncle Harley knew what it was. All three of them had to sign contracts after the sale in 64 not to reveal or share or leave it in a will or anything. It couldn't be in the last will and testament because she signed an NDA on that. But when they made it, Uncle Harley's method was that he added the salt and the MSG to the flour after the 11 herbs and spices were mixed with the flour. Today, and as you can see in the 60s, that packaging, after Brown and Massey purchased Kentucky Fried Chicken, they hired a company called Sexton and Stange to create the poultry seasoning for Kentucky Fried Chicken. Well, in the poultry seasoning there, they added the salt and MSG to the seasoning itself, and they have it listed on the public ingredients. When Uncle Harley, Claudia, and Lee did it, the salt and MSG were added to the flour after the 11. So salt and MSG cannot be included on the 11 herbs and spices. It'd make it 12 and 13 if you include it on the list. So in regards to how they do it, they changed the salt and MSG being put into the bag of the seasoning itself. Because if you're looking at it from a business standpoint, people like to cut corners, whatever the reason. What's the difference between putting it in with the 11 herbs and spices and putting it in with the flour? Maybe they do both, I don't know, but I know that they add the salt and MSG to the mix now before it's mixed with the flour. But that's what's changed. All this information, you could scroll through my YouTube channel and you can find all the information on this, everything your heart desires on it. I posted my final theory and I cooked it with my sister in the kitchen, and my family said it tasted pretty darn close. It was pretty darn good. Is it 100% it? We'll never know. Unless Kentucky Fried Chicken reveals what my uncle has. Even if I had it or my cousins actually do have it and they revealed it, all KFC has to do is say, no, that's not it. That's not an authentic recipe, and then boom, story's over. They have to reveal what it is. They encourage you and I and everyone else to try to figure out this thing and post what we think it is because it's free publicity for them. You go out, you try this chicken, well, now we're going to go try it at a good location and see if it matches. And it's good marketing is what it is. But I did it because I wanted to finally put to rest all this noise going around. I don't care if my cousins have it. I don't care if Kentucky Fried Chicken has it. I don't care if Joe Ludington has it. This is the most accurate information that cannot be denied because it came from the brand itself. That's why I posted it. So that's my final take on this. I'll respond to shorts and reels of comments of people asking questions of why I think what or what their thoughts are. But mine are based off of research. I did 2 years of research on this thing because I got tired of the lies and the noise and the people arguing in my comment sections of whether it was out there in the public or not. So even if mine is not it, it's a pretty darn good template to go by, and you can make your own measurements yourself. Otherwise, I suggest go to Corbin, Kentucky if you're in the area, get some of their chicken. There's plenty of franchises around the country that are just as good as Corbin, Kentucky's. They are who brought me back to the brand. I hadn't eaten chicken from Kentucky Fried Chicken for well over 3 or 4 years before I tried Corbin, Kentucky's. I was boycotting them. I did not like their ads. I did not like their food. Turns out I just had a bad location. Maybe you do too. And if you have a bad location, there's not a good one near you, then take my recipe and try to make it yourself. See what you could do. All right. Bye.